Hi everyone, my name is Tamit Saleh and welcome to this week's episode of Tennis Tuesday. If you haven't already, then please do subscribe as I release weekly videos as well as additional content during the Masters, Grand Slams and World Tour finals. This week, of course, we have the Montreal Open that's begun and I'll be releasing additional content for this like I already have. If you haven't already, then please do check that video out where I look at the Montreal Open, I preview it, and I discuss why Rafa needs to win it, or it'd be very beneficial and in his best interest to win it. I'll put a link up here somewhere and also in the description below to that video. If you want to have a look at last week's Tennis Tuesday debate, where I discussed whether or not Nick Kyrgios is good or bad for tennis, then I'll also put a link in the description for that video. Having won Washington, it seems like Nick Kyrgios has been very good for tennis this week. So yeah, do check that video out. This week, I want to look at the Montreal Draw, so you're all prepared and know exactly what's going on for this Masters tournament. Without further ado, let's roll the intro.
Here he is again. That's astonishing. It's absolutely wow.
So yeah, the Montreal Open has officially begun and we are really into the US swing now, where we have Montreal followed by Cincinnati back to back, and then of course the US Open at the end of it. This is a great period of tennis, especially for me, as I really love these hard-court tournaments. And the Montreal Draw has come out, and I just want to tell you guys who everyone could face and my predictions for the tournament as well. We know that Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer, neither of them are taking part in this tournament, which kind of opens the draw up for Rafa. However, there is plenty of talent worldwide in this tournament, and a lot of players that I believe are in good form as well. So we'll look at Rafa. Of course, he's the defending champion. He won it last year when it took place in Toronto, but it's still the Canadian Open, so he is the defending champion. And he's been given a tricky draw, but something I believe that he should still fairly comfortably come through. It'd be a shock if he doesn't make at least the semi-finals of this tournament. So Rafa in the second round, most likely he will face Alex de Minaur, the young Australian. He's 20 years old. He's already ranked at number 38 in the world. He's won 2 tournaments this year, which was in Atlanta and Sydney, both ATP 250s, of course. So this is a bit of a step up. However, he's showing a lot of promise and one player to keep an eye out on the future. He is dangerous. However, can he beat Rafa? I don't think so. But yeah, Rafa against the world number 38. As you know, it's the second round, as of course the top 8 seeds get buys in the first round. But as an opening match for Rafa, it's a very good test. It's not a complete cakewalk. It's not something that he's facing a world number 100 or whatever, or a wild card. World number 38, a player that's won 2 tournaments this year, a good test for Rafa to begin with. In the third round, I believe Rafa will face David Goffin. He had a decent run in Wimbledon, but then fell short to Novak Djokovic, where I felt he was a little bit disappointing. He lost that in straight sets, including a bagel. I expect Rafa to not really have any problems. However, I must say that Goffin did take a set off Rafa at the French Open this year. We all know how dominant Rafa is, of course, on the clay. And for Goffin to take a set, that is a great achievement in itself. So, Goffin's got the potential. Can he pull it off? We'll see. I doubt it, personally. In the quarterfinals, I believe he's going to face Fognini or Borna Coric. Fognini, of course, beat Rafa early on in the clay season in Monte Carlo, I believe. And Coric, he's a young next-gen player. However, I feel that I've heard of Coric for a long time now, expecting great things and hearing that he's going to do this and that. I just feel like he's not taken that next step forward where he's had that breakthrough in the Grand Slam. Or I don't know. Let's see. Looking at these opening 3 matches, I believe Rafa will, without any problems, reach the semi-finals. And he's really until the semi-finals that I believe he'll face a player that I wouldn't be surprised if he was beaten by. He could potentially face Tsitsipas, Bautista Agut, or Nishikori in that semi-final. Tsitsipas, of course, dangerous player. He made the semi-final in Australia, but then got demolished by Rafa, of course. Bautista Agut, he's had a brilliant season so far. He's beaten Novak in the hard courts already. He had a great run in Wimbledon. He reached the semi-final. And yeah, I hope he can continue this great work. He's playing really well, and the hard courts really suit his game style as well. So he could be a potential opponent for Rafa, and a very tricky one. And then there's, of course, Nishikori. With Nishikori, personally, I feel like he's a bit too inconsistent. He's got it in himself. Of course, he reached the 2014 US Open final, beating Novak Djokovic on the way. So he knows his way around the hard court. However, yeah, with Nishikori, he's got the talent, but I just feel like he's not reached that potential yet. I think it can be actually said about a lot of these next gen or these younger guys that came after the big three, where they have had the potential, but they've not, fulfilled it by winning the tournaments. It is partly due to the fact of the existence and prolonged success of the big three as well. They've just completely, swept up all the slams, and that could be a reason why as well that these guys haven't won it, like the Grand Slams. But yeah, that's the draw for Rafa leading up to the final. In the final, he could, of course, face a whole bunch of players, and I'm going to look at that bottom half of the draw right now. So we've got Dominic Thiem, the number 2 seed. He's, of course, in the bottom half, and he's got a bye in the first round. He could face Canadian Shapovalov in the second round. I feel that would be a tasty tie, especially in front of the home Canadian support as well. Some other tasty ties for the second round could be Medvedev versus Nick Kyrgios. Now, I must say, guys, Kyrgios gets a lot of hate and a lot of stick for some of the actions he does. However, I watched him in Washington last week, and he was phenomenal. The Kyrgios I saw in the tournament, that's the Kyrgios I want to see, guys. It wasn't like he was boring or wasn't himself. He was still having a lot of fun on court, hitting the tweeners. One thing I really enjoyed, which he seemed to be, do in Washington, was every time he had a match point and he was serving, he went up to one of the supporters or fans behind and just asked them, where shall I serve it? And all 3 times, funnily enough, he ended up winning the match, twice on aces. And he ran back to the fan and, congratulated them and said thank you. I think this is great for tennis, this whole fan connection. And you can see as well that Nick Kyrgios is a big draw. Whether you love him or hate him, he gets the fans. And also looking at the fans, he seems to appeal a lot to the younger generation as well. I know Nick Kyrgios has said many things in the past, and a lot of things that I find unacceptable that he's done. However, if he can maintain this now, this is the big thing now. He's won a tournament. He's won tournaments before. But then he seems to, after he's won a tournament, take like a month or 2 where he does very little. He seems to be satisfied with that. I want him now, and I hope now he can motor on. And this is the acid test now. This is a bigger tournament. It's, of course, the Masters 1000. Kyrgios has never won one of these. Let's see if he can continue this form. He, in Washington, he beat Tsitsipas as well on the way to winning it. He beat Medvedev in the final of Washington. So this could be, this is a rematch of the final if they come through their opening rounds. So I cannot wait for this. And I really hope Nick Kyrgios can continue this, because he is good for the game if this is the Nick Kyrgios we see. The other Nick Kyrgios is bad for the game when he's crossing out children's t-shirts and all this nonsense. Another tasty tie in the second round. We have Kachanov versus Stan Wawrinka. Wawrinka, of course, beat Dimitrov in the first round. So yeah, that's a very good tie. I think if the Stan that we know and love can come out and play, then he's got this. However, this is one of those 50-50. It could go either way. The tennis you can expect today. Looking at the first round draw, today we wrap up the first round of the men's singles. Let me just quickly tell you guys. We've got a lot of star names, star players that you'll probably know. Monfils in action, Cilic in action, Isner in action, De Minaur in action. He's facing Dan Evans for the right to face Rafa in the second round. We've got Borna Coric. We've got Nick Kyrgios versus Kyle Edmund. We've got Felix Auger-Aliassime. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but I'll call him FAA. Big hope for Canada. He's in an all-Canadian first-round match against Pospisil, who received a wild card. The funny thing is they played in the doubles in this tournament as well. They lost in the first round. So now, from being teammates, they're now on the opposite side of the court facing each other. some great first round matches there, leading up to the second round where the top 8 seeds will then also enter the draw. Personally, I feel the bottom half is stacked, to say a bit more. We've got Thiem, Cilic, Kyrgios, Medvedev, Zverev, Wawrinka, Kachanov, Felix Auger-Aliassime is now all in that bottom half, so it's going to be a very tasty Masters 1000. Even though we don't have the likes of, the Novak Djokovic, the Federers, Anderson, Juan Martín del Potro, Andy Murray even. So yeah, even without them, we've got some star quality in this tournament. I cannot wait to see how it all unfolds. Like I've said in my previous video, this is a tournament especially important for Rafa. It's a golden opportunity for him, especially without the other two big three playing. If he wins, if he wins Montreal this year, he guarantees himself the second seed for the US Open. The difference between second and third seed is, of course, the third seed will have to beat both of the other big three to win the tournament, and the second seed will have a 50-50 chance. So he might need to only beat one, or he might need to beat two. So it's a lot better to finish in the second seed. In the first 5 Masters this year, we've had 5 different winners. So do you think there'll be a new winner in this? The most likely could be potentially Medvedev, Kyrgios, Zverev perhaps. Zverev actually, he won the last tournament that took place in Montreal. He's not the defending champion because Rafa, of course, won it last year. But as I've said, Montreal, the Canadian Open is shared between Montreal and Toronto. Toronto does all the even years with Montreal doing all the odd years. So the last time it was played in Montreal in 2017, Zverev won the Masters there. With him, there was a lot of promise, a lot of potential. However, especially after last year as well, where he won the World Tour Finals, beating Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic, on the way to winning that was like a big breakthrough for him. However, this year in the Grand Slams, in the Masters, I'm very disappointed with him. And he's also almost becoming a bit of a joke in the tennis community, where people are just giving up on him and thinking he won't, he hasn't even got a chance to win these big tournaments. So let's see what he does. Let me know what you think of the draw. Who do you think will win it? Do you think Rafa can win it? Do you think Rafa's got an easy draw or a difficult draw? I think it's kind of in the balance, 50-50. It's not very difficult, but at the same time, it's not very easy. I want to really keep the buzz of the Montreal Open going. I'll be watching almost every game here. I hope you do as well. And share your thoughts with us. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a thumbs up. And of course, subscribe to the channel for future content like this as well. Thank you very much.
Game, set, and match. Game, set, and